It's embarrassing to have a boyfriend. And just when I thought we're finally done with our dating series, British Vogue comes along and not only broke the internet, but kicks off a whole movement, especially for women like me in their mid 30s and beyond. And you know, the headline alone was enough to make everyone stop scrolling. So they said it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend, and finally we're raising the standards from boyfriend to husband. And I mean, even Charles Leclerc, the Formula One driver, knew what's up and made himself a fiance the other day instead of just the boyfriend. And men are feeling the shift too. And you've probably seen the screenshots, comments, the reels. They're saying finally someone said it, and finally it's also okay to just be single. And maybe for a moment you felt that strange mix of shock and relief, and because even if you didn't agree, you understood why it hit so hard. The one sentence hit a collective nerve, and not because it was cruel, but because it said out loud what a lot of people had been always whispering. And that one sentence touched something deeper than just relationship status. And I have to admit that as a woman who's 37, independent, and has built a life she truly loves, it made me pause too. And not because I feel embarrassed to love someone, or I feel embarrassed to say I'm single, but because I've seen how this narrative has changed what women are allowed to admit. And there's this quiet cultural rule now that the moment you're visibly happy in love, people start questioning your credibility. Can you imagine? So if you're single, you're aspirational. And if you're taken, you're relatable but less available. And if you post a boyfriend, you risk losing followers. And if you say you still want a husband in 2025, people look at you like you just confessed to a crime against feminism. I mean, I can't with this article. So we start editing our truth. We say we're just focusing on ourselves. We share photos of matcha and airports instead of people. We make success the headline and love the footnote, because somewhere along the way, vulnerability became kind of a bad marketing. And I get it. We've worked hard to build independence, to find identity beyond the partnership, to prove we can create our own happiness. Don't get me wrong here, and that's real, and I truly celebrate that. But what gets lost is the nuance. Being self-sufficient doesn't mean being unreachable. And being grounded doesn't mean you stop believing in devotion. And sometimes I also do have a feeling that people don't really know the definition of devotion. So you can be fulfilled and still crave someone who meets you there fully, honestly, and deeply. And where I stand, I'm not embarrassed to want connection. I feel embarrassed that our culture has made it feel naive, because what this Vogue article really reflects isn't the death of romance. It's the fatigue of pretending we don't care, and it's the exhaustion of performing cool. When we and actually, that's where I stand. I'm not embarrassed to want connection. I'm embarrassed that our culture has made it feel naive, because what this Vogue line really reflects isn't the death of romance, it's more the fatigue of pretending we don't care, and it's the exhaustion of performing cool. When what we actually want is something real. And it's more of this silent rebellion of women saying, I'm done settling for halfway things, half presents. The essay itself wasn't anti-love. It was saying never be with anyone. And it was naming a shift, a cultural fatigue around the way we talk about relationships and how we perform independence online while craving intimacy offline, and how we treat affection like it needs a disclaimer, how being someone's girlfriend suddenly feels like a downgrade in a culture obsessed with personal branding. So that headline became a mirror. It reflected something deeper, how the meaning of partnership has blurred in a world obsessed with image and independence. And the question underneath it, it wasn't really, should I have a boyfriend or not? It was, why does the word feel smaller than I do? And over the days, followed after the article, I watched women everywhere, especially women in their 30s and 40s, posting with the strange soft exhale, like no anger, but more of a relief. They said things like, I don't feel ashamed anymore. Maybe I'm not behind. Maybe I'm just choosing differently in my life. And that's what actually caught my attention, because behind every viral headline, there's an energy shift always happening. This one wasn't about rejecting love, it was about releasing the performance around it. See, we've been sold two stories at the same time. One says you're nothing until you're chosen as a woman, and the other says you're weak if you want to be chosen. And most of us have spent years ping ponging between those extremes, never quite at peace in either of them. So when finally someone writes, it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend, it isn't really about men. It's about the awkward in between where we're living in, and the space where independence has become an armor and connection has become negotiation. And it makes you ask, when did commitment start to sound like a downgrade? When did partnership stop sounding like progress? And when did being someone's become an insult instead of an intimacy? And also, when did being someone's become a threat to being someone's? Before we move deeper, let's clear something up. The words boyfriend and husband are interchangeable. That they carry different energy, different intention, different containers. A boyfriend is often a beginning, a trial period, an open tap. A husband or a life partner, I would say, if you prefer a gender neutral term as I do, is a declaration, a decision, a direction that you actually do and choose and decide every single day. And the container matters because the container shapes the behavior inside it. If the container is temporary, the energy stays temporary too. If it's built on we'll see, it usually becomes exactly that, indefinite, uncertain, and undefined. So maybe the women celebrating that headline weren't rejecting love at all. Maybe they were rejecting the pause button. And these endless almost, the soft launches situations, this modern habit of being halfway in, halfway out. Because here's the thing, we live in what I call the 50-50 era. A culture that glorifies balance but secretly celebrates avoidance. Everyone's afraid of being too much, so we perform being chill and cool. We call it equality. So the truth is, most people, they aren't afraid or tired of dating. They're tired of the uncertainty dressed up as freedom. They're tired of pretending they don't care. They're tired of connection that looks modern but feels hollow. And that's where the Vogue headline becomes valuable, because it forces us to look closer. What does partnership mean in an age that worships options? What does commitment look like when visibility feels like vulnerability? And what does it say about us that we're more comfortable showing our lunch than our love? And that's actually what I want to talk about today, because this isn't a story about men versus women or single versus married. It's about the energy, about how we show up, about how we choose to hold, and what we keep pretending doesn't matter. And because this shift we're living through, it's not theoretical. It's showing up in the small, quiet ways we all move now. In the half-written text we never send, in the hey that we stare at for 2 minutes or 2 days before deciding if it's too much or not enough, if we're answering or not answering, and the way we keep our notifications on silent and turn off our phones just to seem less available, even though we still check every 5 minutes and probably also have some kind of fake profiles on the apps. So, if you have been following this series for a while, you'll remember episode 7. It's our own fault that there are no gentlemen anymore. The episode wasn't about blame. It was also about energy, about standards, about what happens when we stop noticing how our energy speaks before our words ever do. And energy never lies. It's what people read before they ever read your message, and what they hear before they ever listen to your words. So it's in the way you lean in or you hold back. It's how you say, I'm fine. And when your body says, maybe I'm tired. It's in the way we protect ourselves by staying half in, so no one can really touch us and no one can really leave as well. And that's exactly what this Vogue conversation exposed. The collective exhaustion of half presence, the feeling of being in something that looks like a relationship, like two people orbiting each other with impressive self-control, but not real commitment to land. And this is what I mean when I talk about the 50-50 culture, the one we keep calling balance, even when it totally feels empty. And it's always this half in, half out, just enough effort to keep things warm, but not enough to make them real. It's the new emotional minimalism, I would say, and we've started calling it balance. I mean, we say no pressure when we actually mean, please just show up. And we say, I'm easy, I'm relaxed, when we actually mean, I just don't want to scare you off. And I mean, this gets on my nerves as well. And here's the irony, because we're all craving depth, but we've mistaken neutrality for safety, and we think if we care less, we'll hurt less. We think if we never depend, we never lose. Yet every time we hold back a truth, we also hold back the spark that could have made something real. And for sure, we have been told equality means sameness, but sameness kills the polarity, and polarity is the current that keeps love alive. And here's where it becomes interesting, because the masculine and feminine energies, no matter your gender, crave polarity, the tiny spark that comes from complement, not from competition. And when both people stay in neutral, the energy just stops moving. It's calm for sure, but it's also a little bit of lifeless and not really alive. So that's why so many people resonate with the Vogue line, because they weren't angry, they were just tired of pretending that uncertainty is empowering, and tired of pretending that chill is confidence, and tired of scrolling through almost that never arrive. And please don't get me wrong, it's never about wanting someone to rescue you. It's about wanting someone to arrive fully, to be there, because real connection isn't built from fear of dependence. It's built from courage, the courage to be seen, to risk disappointment, to let someone affect you. Think of it this way: energy expands where attention goes. Simple rule. If you're constantly negotiating your worth with micro moments, your energy leaks. So if you're always half checking, half waiting, half hopping, your energy just scatters. And that's what we mean when we talk about energy, and it's the language beneath the language. And you just can't fake that. And this is exactly why the woman who said it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend didn't mean they're embarrassed by men. They meant they're embarrassed by the version of themselves that keeps settling for ambiguity, by the version that keeps dimming her clarity to protect someone else's comfort, by the version that mistakes half presence for possibility. Because when energy meets intention, something changes. And a relationship stops being a story you tell online and it becomes an experience that grows you. And you stop asking, what are we? And you start asking, who am I becoming inside this? And that right there is the new standard. And true partnership, it's just not a possession. It's not as performance. It's practice. A space where two people are awake enough to say, this is how I want to love. This is something I choose, and steady enough to hold the choice every day, not only when it's convenient to them. Because here's the truth, when you show up halfway, you teach the other person to do the same. And when you show up whole, you either elevate the energy or you see exactly who can't meet you there. And either way, you get clarity. And clarity, that's the real luxury. Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And you start noticing how almost every modern connection operates on this unspoken rule. Keep it casual, keep it light, keep your options open. And we say we want honesty, but what we really want is control. And control doesn't build love, it builds walls. And the 50-50 culture tells us that balance equals safety. And that if both people invest just enough so no one gets hurt, no one risks too much, no one falls first, and it sounds smart for sure. Until you realize how exhausting it is to love with a kind of a seatbelt on. And love, true love, doesn't happen in percentages. You can't divide presence into halves or 50-50%. You're either in or you're not, you're out. And yet, this is the culture we've built where half effort feels responsible and half feeling feels wise. And real intimacy isn't 50-50, to be clear on that. It's 100 and 100. Not in effort, but in energy. It means two whole people are showing up. It's not the half person is showing up. And probably also negotiating for safety. We've turned self protection into strategy. Let's say it like this, we call it boundaries, but sometimes it's just fear with better branding. And we call it standards when it's actually hesitation. And all that hesitation keeps us stuck in situationships that look calm on the outside for sure, but probably feel anxious underneath. And the moment you start calculating, like who texted last, who called first, who cares more, who loves more, you're already again in the management process, not in a true connection. And management also always kills polarity. It replaces the natural flow of giving and receiving with performance and control. So when people say, I want equal effort, what they usually mean is, I want to feel secure. And that's human. It's just human. But security doesn't come from equality. It comes from clarity, from two people who both know what they want and have the courage to say it out loud. And even if it might scare the other person away, then it's how it is. And the worst part, we normalize that. We convince ourselves that this is what dating is supposed to feel like. That maybe the dull ache of uncertainty is just the price of modern love. Except it's not. Sorry, it's not. It's the price of avoidance. For me, it's the price of avoidance. Avoidance of death, of decision making, of vulnerability, of showing up as the beautiful person that you are. And because clarity feels dangerous to people who fear loss, and if you say what you want, someone might walk away. That's just life. And if you say what you need, someone might call it too much. But silence has a cost too. It has a price, and it keeps you in a loop of half energy and of not fully showing yourself. And half energy can never create full connection. The result, we create situationships that are technically safe and emotionally unavailable. So think about how many people are living in that quiet middle ground, texting every day, sharing playlists, sending selfies, maybe even meeting the families and the parents, but not really moving anywhere. It's the illusion of progress, the performance of connection without the risk of death. And social media, as much as I love it, fuels the illusion perfectly. We have endless access now, endless people, endless profiles, endless possibilities. Someone newer, someone shinier, someone funnier, more spiritual, more successful, always just one swipe away. It creates what psychologists call choice overload. Too many options, too little decisions. And when you never decide, you never commit. And when you never commit, you never build. And we scroll through faces the way we scroll through playlists, and we skip, maybe skip. We treat connection like content, disposable, interchangeable, replayable. And that mindset leaks into real life, because if you always believe something better might be one swipe away, you'll never actually see the person in front of you. That's why people don't commit. Not because they don't want to. I think it's because they're overstimulated and underconnected. Too many options, not enough presence, too much noise, not enough depth. But the longer you stay, the deeper you go. And the deeper you go, the more real it becomes. And that's the part our generation seems to have forgotten, because we are taught that freedom means keeping every door open. But real freedom is knowing which door you actually want to walk through and having the courage to close the rest. And it's not about options, it's about alignment. And what does it do to our nervous system? It keeps it in a constant state of half readiness. And anyone can start over all the time, and it takes real courage to stay and build something honest. And here's what I've realized: control feels powerful, for sure, but it also blocks connection. And the moment you try to manage love, you mute it. Love is like breath, it needs rhythm and not restriction. You can't hold your breath and expect to feel alive. And I see that so many times in the yoga classes, that people want to come and move their body and feel connected to their own body and do the poses. But throughout the whole process, they're just holding their breath like they're made like a wall made out of stone. So the 50-50 myths keep us safe from heartbreak, but it also keeps us safe from love. So it keeps us safe from everything. And love, real love, it requires risk. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just like that. And it requires exposure. It requires the audacity to believe that someone could meet you where you stand, and not because they have to, but because they really want to. Maybe the new question isn't, do I have a boyfriend? It's, am I fully here? Am I showing up in a way that reflects what I actually want? Am I showing up as the person that I really want to be? Or am I still editing myself to seem effortless? And real connection isn't complicated, it's clear. It's that quiet knowing, I'm here, you're here, and we're both choosing this. No performance, no panic, and also no pretending. Because when you choose fully, you invite the same energy back, And that's when things start to flow, not because they're perfect, but because they're honest. And here's the truth no one tells you. You can't inspire devotion from half presence. You can't magnetize clarity from confusion. And you can't experience love in its full form while still performing independence as protection. So we talk so much about being independent, and I get it. I get it. We fought for it, we worked for it, we built it, but somewhere along the way, independence became code for untouchable. And as if needing no one is the same as knowing yourself. As if being self sufficient means you have to walk through life with your hands in your pockets. As if we never, I mean, as if we would never ever rely on anyone, then we'll never be disappointed. But independence without intimacy becomes isolation, and isolation that looks glamorous on the outside often feels lonely in the dark. It's the kind of loneliness you can't fix with busyness or beauty or success or your matcha. Because what you're missing isn't attention, it's resonance. That moment when someone sees you and your whole system exhales because finally you can put the armor down. And what I've learned, what I see over and over again in people who come to my yoga classes, my retreats, my messages, is that real independence isn't about rejecting it all. It's about choosing when and where you open up consciously and not reactively. It's about trusting yourself enough to let someone meet you and knowing you won't lose yourself in the process. It's the soft strength of saying, I can do it alone, but I choose not to. And that choice, that willingness to be affected, that's where the real feminine power lives. Not in control and more in surrender, not in playing small. Don't get me wrong here. It's just more of I'm staying open. Because openness isn't weakness, it's leadership in its highest form. And that's what the feminine and masculine dynamic in its healthiest form is built on. Not dependence, not domination, not control, just polarity. Just polarity, two complete energies choosing each other fully, creating movement, creating life together. That's what women mean when they say, I want to feel safe enough to be soft. And that's what men mean when they say, I want to feel trusted enough to lead. But when we lose polarity, everything collapses just in neutral. And you can feel that difference. You can feel when a man stops leading because he senses you won't let him. And you can feel when a woman stops receiving because she's afraid you will misuse her softness. And you can feel when two people stop risking and when love becomes just a joint project instead of a living pulse. We think we're protecting ourselves from pain, but we're actually protecting ourselves from intimacy, because intimacy always asks you to be brave enough to be changed. When I look back at the episode 7 and that line, there are no gentlemen left and that's our own fault, this is what I meant underneath it. Not fault as blame, but more as awareness, because the feminine teaches through allowance. And when we allow half presence, we teach half presence. And when we overgive, we train others to underlead. When we carry the connection, we remove the space for anyone else to step in. And maybe that's what this whole conversation is pointing to. Maybe it's not about rejection partnership. Maybe it's about rejecting performance. Maybe it's about remembering that independence was never meant to replace love. It was meant to prepare you for it. Because when you stand in your fullness, your own rhythm, your own presence, your own groundness, you don't lose yourself in love. You expand inside it. You stop attracting half effort because your energy doesn't resonate with it anymore. And that's what changes everything. Also, because when you show up as a whole person, you stop begging for pieces. You stop negotiating for crumbs. You stop being impressed by potential and start being moved by consistency. That's the difference between wanting a boyfriend and being ready for a husband. Because I think that's also a main part. This, like, I want a boyfriend, I want a husband, to versus I am ready for a husband because I am ready to be a wife. And a boyfriend can entertain you, a husband or conscious partner can meet you, not because he's perfect, but because he's intentional. So, yes, independence matters, self trust matters, having your own life, your own rhythm, your own sense of life, all that matters. Yet, independence was never meant to be the goal. It was meant to be the ground you stand on when you decide to love from wholeness, because only from wholeness you can choose freely, and only from freedom you can commit fully. That's where independence meets intimacy, not in control, but in choice, in the decision to let love in without needing it to complete you. And that right there is the paradox of real independence. The more whole you are, the deeper you can go. The less you need, the more you can give. The stronger you stand alone, the more you can let yourself fall safely into someone else's arms. So when people celebrate that Vogue headline, what they really celebrating is the quiet evolution happening underneath it. We're not embarrassed by connection. We're embarrassed by pretending we don't want it. We're not rejecting partnership. We're rejecting the performance of it. We're not choosing to be single forever. We're choosing to be single until it's real. And please, it's okay to be single before you settle for less. I mean, look at me. Before I settle for less, I'm gonna stay single forever. And because that's the real shift happening right now, from performance to presence, from showing the world how okay we are to actually being okay. When people read it's embarrassing to have a boyfriend, some rolled their eyes, others felt seen for the first time. And somewhere in between, we all recognized ourselves. That part that's tired of pretending that half presence is enough. So here's what I think this moment is asking of us: to choose fully or not at all, to stop treating people like options and start treating them like mirrors, to stop using modern as an excuse for being emotionally lazy, because freedom isn't keeping every door open. It's knowing which door is yours and then having the courage to walk through it. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. You're not late to the game. You're not behind. You're just gathering clarity, and you're learning the difference between effort and alignment, between being chosen and choosing. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to pause. Not to wait, but to witness yourself and to ask yourself, what am I calling love, and what am I calling connection? And that's the quiet revolution happening underneath this Vogue headline. It's not anti-man, it's not anti-love, it's pro-clarity. So no, it's not embarrassing to have a boyfriend. It's only embarrassing to stay where your energy isn't met. It's embarrassing to play small in a world that's asking you to rise. And it's embarrassing to keep pretending that almost is enough when you know you were made for all in. So we're not giving up on love. We're giving up on the diluted version of it. The version that looks pretty on camera, but feels empty in real life. Because here's the truth. I keep circling back to it. Every time you raise your standard, you raise the vibration of what's possible for everyone around you. You remind people what real connection feels like, not the constant texting, not the algorithmic compatibility, but the quiet ease of two people who can finally stop performing and just breathe. And freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's being so aligned that you no longer want what drains you. That real freedom, that's real independence. So maybe the new standard is simple. Don't date for potential. Don't settle for almost. Don't mistake consistency for connection or chaos for passion. Choose presence, choose peace, choose people who make your nervous system feel like home and where you can fully be yourself. And that right there is what this generation is quietly learning now. You can be ambitious, independent, magnetic, and still want partnership. You can love your life alone and still crave someone to share it with. You can have both, because wanting connection doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. It's about saying, I'm here. I'm open without apology. So I really thought we were done with the dating series. But I guess it's like the never-ending story. So here we are again. Maybe because love, real love, is never something you're done with. It's something you keep rediscovering every time you grow, every time you choose differently. And maybe that's the point, that the story doesn't end, it just gets deeper. So I'm quite curious where we're going from here. Let's see about it. And thank you so much for listening to me and to supporting me and to also keep showing up here. And if you like that video, so subscribe to my channel so you won't miss out. Until next time, ciao ciao.